Madame Corbeil.
Alors, nous allons bientôt passer à la période de questions. Permettez-moi de vous rappeler, mesdames et messieurs, que certaines règles s'appliquent lorsque vous intervenez devant les membres du Conseil d'arrondissement. Tout intervenant doit s'inscrire avant la séance du Conseil de façon à avoir le droit de poser des questions limitées à 2. Lorsque vous posez votre question, vous devez obligatoirement vous adresser au maire qui préside la séance et non directement aux membres du Conseil. Votre question doit être claire et précise, sans préambule. Vous devez être poli et respectueux envers les membres du Conseil. Si vous ne respectez pas ces règles, vous serez invité à vous retirer et à quitter la salle du Conseil. La prise de photos, de vidéos ou d'enregistrement est interdite sans l'autorisation du maire. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to remind you that certain rules apply when you address Council members. Each individual is requested to register prior to the Council meeting in order to have the right to ask questions, not exceeding 2. When addressing the Council, you have to direct your question directly to the mayor presiding over the Council meeting and not directly to any Council members. Your question has to be clear and precise without preamble. If you do not respect these rules, you will be asked to retire and to leave the Council chamber. Taking pictures, filming, and recording are forbidden without the mayor's authorization. Monsieur Rostit.
Hello. Good evening, bonsoir.
Good evening.
As I guess most people saw, first question, as most people saw in the news about the alleged fraud for the Bibliothèque Pierrefonds. So my question is, where's the oversight on this? And how could the council allow this to happen without not having more oversight to watch this contractor who in the past apparently had a history of being difficult to work with, but I guess fraud was never brought up in the past perhaps. So where's the accountability on the part of this council to watch this contractor who apparently or allegedly charged the subcontractors up to 15% more, which hopefully we'll get back somehow and we will not be stuck with the bill? And also, what exactly is the present spending on this library? Because
Well, that's your two questions, Mr. Stitt?
no, that's one question.
Okay, well, your one question is about accountability. And accountability, as you know, the Bureau de l'Inspecteur Général, if you've read the report, and I've read it word for word, is clearly indicated. First of all, the file was managed by the City of Montreal. We will operate the library. We're not building it. It's being built through the City of Montreal. Regardless of that.
What about the contract?
Regardless of that, I'm trying to answer the first question. Yeah. Regardless of that, everything that was alleged in the report that the Bureau d'Inspecteur Général, which is actually a result of our administration having the BIG in place in order for them to discover these types of occurrences. They found that what was being done by the contractor with his subcontractors was completely something that was done on his own, and the City of Montreal would have no knowledge of it. And it was only because a whistleblower said what was happening that the Bureau d'Inspecteur Général did their analysis and investigation and found that for, as far as I remember in the report, for several thousands of dollars, but whether it's $1 or several thousands of dollars, it's the same thing. What he was doing internally with his subcontractors, there would have been no way for the City of Montreal to know that this was happening if there wasn't a Bureau d'Inspecteur Général in place. And so we're grateful that at least the BIG was able to discover this going on. And of course, the investigation follows, and the intention will be, as far as you remember even the mayor of Montreal stating, is to recuperate any amounts of money that were allegedly taken in this way. So there was no way for the city or the borough to know of any of this going on, because the safeguards that are in place when it comes to awarding of contracts clearly stipulate the process. And up until that point, all of that was respected by the contractor and the subcontractors. What was happening between them, unbeknownst to the city officials, that this was discovered. And that's clear in the report, Mr. Stitt.
Well, he didn't respect the time delay, that's one thing. And if you go on his website, he says he's always on time for his projects.
No, but that's not Mr. Stitt, you're asking me about the big report, and the big
Right.
report is that, so I answered it as best as I could.
So you don't take any responsibility for anything that went on then?
Well, according to the big evaluation and the report, Mr. Stitt, it clearly indicates that the city would have had no way of knowing what was happening behind the scenes. That's exactly what they said.
But I remember when the extra $500,000 was spent to oversee him
Yeah.
and put the mobile trailers on site to
Yeah.
watch him. So
Yeah.
that's a bit of a red flag there as far as the contractor is concerned, I would think, in hindsight.
Well, I think the red flag was raised by the whistleblowers, Mr. Stitt, and rightfully so. And once this was discovered, an investigation took place, and this is what was discovered. But like I said, regardless whether it's $1, $5, or a few $1,000s, as was the case, it was fraud. And if that's what it is, then that money should be recuperated and penalties should be applied.
Of course, thank you. Second question, regarding the Pierrefonds quarry on Oakwood Street. The residents have been promised for many decades now, and I don't mean a few, many decades, that this quarry will be put to rest, and these promises have been broken by past councils. In fact, November 7th, 2011, your former Mayor Worth, stated to the media on November the 7th, 2011, that the smell of this quarry will be gone in a few months. Well, obviously, here we are in 2019, and the smell is still a massive problem. I worry about toxicity in the air and the water, which would, or probably has had, a disaster effect on the health of the residents. So,
Are you scientifically stating that, or are you assuming?
I would, you know what? Why don't the city get a scientific report
Well, let me give
on
you-
the air and the water
Well,
quality?
just ask your question,
That's
Mr.
not my
Stitt.
question, but
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Ask your question, and I'll be happy to answer it.
my question is, when will this city close down the quarry that has been a problem for decades? And just as an addendum, does the city receive any money from the owners of this quarry, aside from property tax?
Thank
or?
you. Thank you, Mr. Stitt. Let Mr. Gignac complement what I'm going to say. As you remember, and you've been attending this council meeting for years, I don't know how far back it goes, what was said in the previous administration. I can't either confirm or not, because I didn't hear those words. I wasn't present when that proclamation was made by the previous administration. What I can tell you was, yes,
Montreal
in fact,
Gazette, it was in the Gazette.
okay, but it was also, in 2011 or whenever you stated. So I don't remember that, to be honest with you.
That's fine.
But I can tell you, and you remember clearly, that the quarry was supposed to close 2017, 16, 17. And then what happened was there was an extension given up until, I believe, 2022. What had happened in the meantime was the vocation of the quarry had changed because they had said that it would fill up after a certain amount of years, and then they would treat it and make it a green space for the public to use, right? And this is what was said back in the day. Well, what happened when the vocation changed, it became a sorting facility where they would dump and then they would bring out the materials that were useful, and it would take, who knows, probably 10, 15, 20 years to fill up after they decided that. It's been over a year now, Mr. Gignac, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a new company that has been managing this facility, and in fact, the site is full. So where 5 years ago I was in the pit, and I'm saying deep, literally you lose yourself, that's how far down we were. Now it's full, which means that 2022 now is right now. They've asked the Minister of Environment to grant them not only the funding necessary, but also the rights to be able to cap and to put 35 so that the gas can escape, right? And then there's a process, a scientific process, and then they would cover it, they would green space it, and then it wouldn't mean that the smells would automatically be eliminated, but at least the process to finally close the site would begin. We have already reached out to the minister, and we're hoping that we can expedite this request that the company has made, because apparently they've been waiting, and I'll let Mr. Gignac complete it now, but they've been waiting now for almost a year now for the rights from the Minister of Environment. And so we're on this file. We understand that it's taken long, but the initial idea was that it would be full in 2015-16 anyways. And so by extending it to 2022, because they hadn't filled it at that time and the vocation changing, we're now where we are, where the facility is full. And that's why we suspect, and as well, we've reached out to the Montreal Environment, and they are also aware of the situation. The reason why when it gets warm and we're smelling it more in the area is because it's full now. Where before, when it was so low, you couldn't get that as you are now. Mr. Gignac, si vous pouvez ajouter.
Well,
Who also sits on the committee, by the way. Let him complete what he's going to say, please, and then if you have something
Okay.
brief.
Okay, well, there's one precision to make to start with. In 1988, a decree from the Quebec government made the quarry, turned the quarry into a dumping ground of dry material. So it wasn't a decision of the borough, it was imposed on the borough, and until it's full, you're going to live with it. Over the years, it might have been 6, 7 promoters, operators, call it whatever, selected by the Quebec government. And only since my first election in 2013, Mr. Mayor, that I started meeting regularly with the operators. The previous one, LEAP, Les Entreprises Environnementales Pierrefonds, did their job, and yes, they were from time to time gas escaping and so on, but the hole was not filling up. 2 years ago, a new player showed up, selected by the Quebec government, and we are privileged. It is the largest environmental firm in the world. They have experience in the management. For the first time, it's a company that has experience because they're managing other dumping grounds. Just in Quebec, they're managing 10. This is the 10th one here in Pierrefonds. A year ago, exactly, March 2018, they applied for a certificate of authorization to deploy this new, because that's part of their mandate, to cover the whole area of the site with 35, I'll call them wells, des puits, where they will dig 3 feet wide. I don't know how many dozens of meters, I can't remember the data, 75 meters, I'm not sure, where they will be sucking the gases 25 meters radius from each of the wells covering the site. That will solve the problem. They cannot start until they have the certificate. And yes, like you, I'm a resident that lives near the quarry. The chief of the political attaché, the mayor, is even closer than me. She lives right in front of the entrance. And yes, we are concerned, but we see at the end of the tunnel. Once they have the certificate, the deployment of that technology, and it's not a little project here, it's a major engineering undertaking, 35 wells connected to each other, where at the end they will be burning the gases like they do right now. Gases are coming through the ground everywhere. So if you could capture it underground and burn it at the surface, that would be solving the problem. Like the mayor. In 2013, I visited the site, and I made a statement when I came back. That hole will not be filled in my lifetime. It's full. The only trucking happening now in Oakwood, because they were the issue of dirt, and it was a nuisance.
dirt, water around the
This
corner,
and that,
draining all the way
whatever,
down the
you know
side
what,
streets.
Yes, there are problems, but the odors is the main issue. But just on the dirt, there's no longer any trucks going in. The only trucks that are going in is to start leveling the surface en attendant the certificate of the ministry. Once they have it, it's not over. We estimate, and under the comments that they've made, it will take between a year and 18 months to deploy the whole system. It's because it's not a small engineering undertaking, it's major. Connect them all and capture to burn or to resell. That decision has been made. It will all depend on the volume that will be escaping, and then they'll decide whether they capture it and sell it to Hydro. So not to Hydro, but the Gaz Métropolitain who changed name there, Energy. So that decision is yet to be made, but the end is there.
Methane
In the
gas?
meantime,
Is it methane gas?
yes, but
What about sulfuric?
well, let me get there because you talked about health and so on.
Mm-hmm.
The monitoring the site is done by 3 people. Le Ministère de l'Environnement, we're making sure that they're following the process and everything they're supposed to do. Le Ministère de la Santé publique, who does on a regular basis tests, not only of the water, but of the air and all of that quality, and they're doing it. They're part of the commission that I head. And the City of Montreal for les rejets industriels, so whatever goes in the water main and sewers and so on. Everything is by the book.
Well, the City of Montreal's Health Department also said that there's no problem with the PCBs in Point Claire, and that was highly debatable, but
Well, it's not the
that's a
City of
bit of an
Montreal
aside.
here.
Well, the
we're
City of
talking-
Montreal's Health Department, but,
Well, we're
Yeah.
talking about the Quebec government.
so what happens when it's all full? When
Well,
it's
the
all-
idea
it's covered over.
was that once it was going to be full, it was going to be closed and turn into a green space. As
And
is
who
the,
would be the owner? They'd revert it back to the
it
City of
would be back to
Montreal
the city, yes.
for free?
Yeah.
From what we understand, yes, that was in the original plan.
And I
As you know, and thank you for your last question, Mr. Stitt, the Miron Quarry is a very similar situation. As you know, the City of Montreal got that facility a number of years ago, significant number of years ago, and is transforming that site now into a park and green space, as you know. But that took years just because of the sheer, size of it compared to what we have here on Oakwood. But like Mr. Gignac says, and we were weary when we had heard, and we had gone down a number of years ago, that this place will never be full. And what do you do after, when it's been promised at a certain time, and then we've extended to 2022, and then realistically seeing it and saying, well, it's not going to be another 20 years, what do you do now? And in fact, with the management of this facility being what it is now at that state. So if anything, at least it's full and it's starting its transformation. As we know more information, that information will be given to the public, particularly the folks that live in the immediate area there, as we've been communicating with them on a regular basis whenever there are any concerns, and the public is getting the information real time. However, this is something we are working with our communications department to make sure that we put something at large so that everybody knows the current state and what the critical path and timeline will be for the next number of years. Thank you, Mr. Stitt.
And
Thank you.
if I may add, we've decided to wait that the company gets its certificate of authorization to start informing the public with the right information.
That's right.
There's nothing worse to say, yeah, it's coming when we don't know. The decision by the ministry is imminent.
Thank you,
Merci,
Mr. Stitt.
Merci, Monsieur Gignac.
Thank you.
Monsieur Chris Eustace.
Thank you, Madame Courbet, Mr. Mayor,
Sir,
Council.
how are you?
Earlier today, Mr. Mayor, I sent Madame Courbet and yourself an email with a group of links, basically to give you information, background information, so you wouldn't be caught off guard of what I'm going to talk about. What I'm going to talk about is the merger.
Well, realistically, I didn't. Honestly, I didn't. I saw you. We got an email, but I didn't read the links. You sent it today.
Yes, I sent it today.
Right.
So you will give me an extra few seconds to explain what I'm talking about then, right?
As quick as you are accustomed to, Mr. Eustace.
Right, yeah, I know, but you'll always ask me to get to the question. Okay, what I want to talk about is the transfer of Riverdale High School to the Commission Scolaire Margaret Bourgeois. And I, like most people, woke up on January 29th and read the paper or saw the news on TV or listened to radio, and we all said, what the, Then we had 2 reactions that came out. One reaction, my reaction was I was deeply saddened because I know that school extremely well. In fact, I worked at Pierrefonds Comprehensive High School for all my career, 34 years. And after I retired, I worked at Riverdale School, in fact, with leadership classes involving Yolande James and your predecessor, Monique Worth, both excellent schools. But what I was angered about, though, was the reaction by some in the media, basically saying that this move was an English-French thing, anti-English. Then there was other groups who were saying this is a prelude to the abolishment of school boards. Let the record show that this is absolutely not the case. This was simply a case of the French students or students in Commission Scolaire Margaret Bourgeois did not have any space, whereas there was a lot of space that was that we had at the English School Board, Lester B. What was also more upsetting was just recently, Mr. Mayor, was that the Quebec English School Boards Association is going around saying that it's a gross infringement on rights, Constitution, bringing up all kinds of nonsense, which hopefully when school boards are scrapped, they will go as well. But the one that particularly bugged me, Mr. Mayor, since you are the mayor of both, in a sense, the area of Riverdale and Pierrefonds Comprehensive, you said that this whole case was mishandled by the provincial government. So you took it upon yourself to make a statement that the CAQ made a mistake, the provincial government, and then you went on to say...
I never said they made a mistake, sir.
You said mishandled.
That doesn't mean they made a mistake.
Well, it depends how you look at it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what's
all
your
right.
question?
See, there you go. You didn't give me a chance.
Well,
You
because
see, you don't give me a chance.
Well, no,
Now,
it's
see,
because I have other people in the room as well,
I understand
Mr.
that the
Eustace.
person before me took at least, and I'm not criticizing that.
Go ahead.
Okay. Now, you also mentioned something about there was a consultation process.
Right.
Yes, indeed, we did have a consultation process at Lester B about 3 or 4 years ago. There were 61 briefs handed in. I was the only one as an individual who handed his brief in. And basically what we said, many people said, there's going to be a problem coming up in the next few years, that we've got a lot of space, we need more students, we got to maybe merge or close schools. Of course, Lester B did not listen to that, okay? They're the ones who mishandled all this. And let me go even take this even a step further.
Okay, but I need you to get to your question.
I will.
Thank you.
Okay, in about 45 seconds. There was a parents' committee meeting that was held last week in which there were about 40 parents at a parents' committee meeting of Lester B. I was the public, well, the only individual, and the chairman of the board said basically that the CAQ told Lester B to keep this whole thing quiet. It was under embargo because they were told on December 18th, which is 6 weeks, well, 5 weeks before January 29th. As it turns out, that was not the case. As it turns out, that was completely false. And there'll be more details upon that coming up in the near future. Going back to the consultation that Lester B held about 4 years ago,
45
that was done
seconds.
so badly. I'm going to
Mr.
ask the
Eustace.
question right now.
Okay.
That was done so badly that CTV News broadcasted the names of 2 schools that were closed even before the commissioners voted. So this is my question. As far as you're concerned, Lester B, you said this was mishandled by the provincial government. Did you bother to ask the Commission Scolaire, Margaret Bourgeois, whether or not this was mishandled? Because they sent letters to Lester B. It's in the minutes, which are there, basically saying, this is very rough now, saying, what are we going to do about this crowding business and this merger? So what I'm asking you is, you took the angle, Lester B's side, and the
What I'm
Liberal
saying,
Party side.
Mr.
What about
Mr.
Commission
Eustace,
Scolaire,
Mr.
Margaret
Eustace,
Bourgeois?
let me stop you right there.
Go ahead.
Don't ever put words in my mouth.
Well, I'm asking
Nobody
you.
puts words in my mouth.
I'm reading here.
No,
Mishandled.
nobody puts words in my mouth, Mr. Eustace.
Mishandled.
What I said was, this is an unfortunate situation for the students that attend that school and their families that have chosen to live near that school and send their children, okay? We know that there's a process when it comes to school boards. You've been a part of them. I've been a part of them. Many of us have been. When it comes to any decision of this type, and we've had others in Pierrefonds that have occurred, some of the elementaries have school, and I can go back all the way to Roxboro Elementary, which became the Socrates School way back. I can go that far back. And so when something like that is to happen, as was the case for Thorndale, for example, certainly, there are negotiations and discussions that, as far as we know, could take up to a year. And you know this. And you know this. And you also know that both school boards were in negotiations for close to that time, if not a little less, and had come up with some other proposals. This has never been a linguistic thing. This has never been choosing one over the other. It has been a decision that came down from the provincial government, in my opinion, that didn't consider the most important issue in this case, and that is the children and the families that go to this school to be well informed and to be able to make the appropriate decisions as we move forward. And so this, like for you and for me and for many others, dropped from the sky overnight, and we heard about it in the press. So that was our comment. That was my comment. And I stand by it, because Riverdale School has a strong historical value to our community, and many of the kids that have passed through there now that are adults and moved on with their own families, some of their kids go to that school. It's meaningful for them to have that. It doesn't mean it can't close, because our French population has been sending their kids to Jean 23 and Dollard and other schools throughout the territory because we don't have one in our territory, just like many other cities or boroughs. So no one is denying the fact that there is a need for a Francophone high school, not only in our community, but probably in others. All I'm saying is, certainly, it could have been done in a way to involve the public, the school community, and I'm not talking about the administrators, I'm not talking about a school board, I'm talking about the users of this facility. And in this case, it's the kids and their families. The other issue too, Mr. Eustace, if you don't know already, and I'm sure you may, is we have a lot of organizations that use that facility.
I'm fully aware.
You know this.
Yep.
That their future now is in question because they're in limbo. We also have an adult education a system that's in place there. We have a Greek Saturday school that operates in that facility. There were already hours that were given to the Francophone board to use that facility. So taking all that into consideration, it's no longer about the 400 or so kids that were going to Riverdale. It's a community that's affected by a decision, in my opinion, regardless of who the government is, Mr. Eustace, don't misunderstand me, regardless of who the government is to make a decision for a community that potentially is impacted in a way that could have been avoided if things would have been done in a way that would have included them in the process. And that was my comment. So when I talk about mishandling, that's what I meant.
The process was being handled, but apparently they were told that it's under embargo. They couldn't talk about it.
I don't look at apparently, Mr. Eustace. I look at certainty, and certainty tells me that morning when I woke up, I found out that school was closing.
Yeah. Why did you find out then?
I found it from the press.
They were under embargo. That's exactly my whole point. Because Lester B kept it quiet. Anyway, we'll come back to that some other time in the future.
What's your second question? Very brief, Mr. Eustace, please.
My second question is this. What do you think of the name, since both schools are in Pierrefonds and since both schools are high schools? Why don't we call the school Pierrefonds High School?
Well, look, names are listen.
I was only...
No, but I know, and respectfully, I understand the humor in it. But the other thing, too, is when the school board was given that property in, I think it was 1970, I think it was at that time. I don't know if in the original agreements of those years, was there stipulation made in terms of the name being what it is and it's staying that way? I don't know. Yeah. I mean, certainly there's going to be some investigating that's going to have to take place. So they're going to have to refer to some of those older documents. And if, in fact, in the original agreement from the very early 70s, there was a stipulation that that name was to be the Pierrefonds Comprehensive. But again, you raise a very good question. If that school is to be renamed, why not ask the student body and the community, community?
I'm sure they will.
No, but I mean, those are the kind of ways, I think, to feel sort of a part of something and create that sense of belonging within an institution. And you being in the school boards know full well that the school community runs almost like a mini city. Yeah. And so if you don't consult them to a certain degree when it comes to a major decision like this, certainly people are going to emotionally react in the way that they have and go in all areas. And so I've never said anything but that. And so you have me on camera, and that's exactly what I said, and that's where I stand.
I'm only going by what I read, Mr. Mayor. And you used the word mishandled.
Exactly.
That's
and it was.
And it wasn't mishandled.
Yes, it was mishandled.
Definitely was not.
Yes, it was. Thank you, Mr. Eustace. Have a good night. Est-ce que je peux avoir une prolongation de 15 minutes?
Je propose.
Merci.
Merci. Madame Pauline Primo.
Bonsoir, Monsieur le
Bonsoir,
maire.
Madame.
Et les conseillers. J'ai juste une petite question au sujet du carrefour des aînés.
Oui.
Je sais qu'on va avoir probablement une piscine pas loin.
Oui.
Est-ce que vous savez si le stationnement et le carrefour des aînés vont être touchés?
Pas du tout. Pas du tout, parce que la piscine est prévue près de boulevard Pierrefonds. et pas près de Carrefour, de centre Marcel Morin. Comme ça, le centre Marcel Morin va préserver, le stationnement va rester tel quel. En plus, il va y avoir d'autres stationnements quelque part entre les deux édifices, mais le stationnement n'est pas touché au Carrefour des Aînés. N'inquiétez-vous pas, madame.
Merci beaucoup.
Bonsoir.
Madame Justine McIntyre.
Bonsoir, Monsieur le maire. Bonsoir, les membres du Conseil.
Bonsoir.
Alors, j'ai pris connaissance du...
Oui.
OK, ça fonctionne? Voilà. Comme M. Stitt, comme beaucoup d'entre nous, c'est sûr que j'ai eu des questions par la suite. Alors, après ma lecture du dossier concernant la firme de construction Lavacon, ma première question, c'est qu'on apprend qu'il y avait 50 directives de changement, ce qui représente beaucoup. Donc, ce qu'on appelle des extras, ce sont des directives de changement. Et ma première question, c'est qui approuvait ces différentes directives de changement? Est-ce que c'était approuvé ici, localement, ou par la Ville de Montréal?
C'est la Ville de Montréal.
D'accord.
C'était des changements, Madame Gervais, vous pouvez me corriger si vous voulez, c'est des changements soit à fur et à mesure quand les travaux ont commencé. Ça peut être des changements à l'intérieur d'un contrat que peut-être c'est pas vu dans le contrat original, mais les changements, il y a une fiche à remplir. Les changements sont approuvés par la Ville de Montréal selon les coûts associés. Et là, il y a une négociation entre la Ville de Montréal, si jamais c'est nécessaire, et le contracteur, et avec les experts, les évaluateurs de la Ville de Montréal, pour finaliser les coûts associés à ces changements. Jusqu'à là, ça va bien, parce que Montréal signe pour approuver les changements tels quels. C'est entre le moment que c'est approuvé que le contracteur faisait affaire avec les sous-contracteurs individuellement, sans connaissance par la Ville ou l'arrondissement. De toute façon, ce n'est pas nous qui signions ces changements, c'était la Ville de Montréal.
Oui, je comprends. Puis ça, c'est comme vous avez dit tantôt, ça c'était clair dans le rapport que...
Effectivement.
Il n'y avait pas nécessairement de façon pour la Ville de prendre connaissance du fait qu'il y avait une entente entre l'entrepreneur et les sous-contractants. Mais voici ce qui me préoccupe, M. Bay, c'est qu'en 2015 déjà, j'ai pu siéger à la Commission des finances et on avait à chaque année à approuver différents dossiers, donc le dossier du vérificateur général de la Ville de Montréal. Et en 2015, dans son rapport, il a soulevé des problèmes très similaires, mais pour la piscine de Valley Crest. Donc, il avait fait des recommandations en lien avec, par exemple, d'avoir quelqu'un à la Ville qui serait en charge du projet, qui aurait les compétences nécessaires en gestion de projet, de produire un échéancier qui serait mis à jour régulièrement pour ne pas que le projet tombe en arrière sans que la Ville soit au courant, donc pour éviter des problèmes de communication entre la Ville et le contracteur et éviter qu'il y ait des choses qui se fassent aussi du côté du contracteur dont la Ville n'aurait pas connaissance et que plus tard, ça pourrait produire des extras qui seraient difficilement explicables. Et ce qui me préoccupe, c'est qu'à l'époque où il fallait que la Commission des finances approuve les recommandations du vérificateur général de la Ville de Montréal, Mme Clément Talbot avait voté contre l'ensemble des recommandations qui concernaient la Ville de Pierrefonds. Et selon moi, ça peut ouvrir une brèche pour les contracteurs qui font affaire avec la Ville et qui se disent, mais quand même à Pierrefonds, du côté politique au moins, il y a une volonté de tourner le dos à ces bonnes pratiques-là. Et c'est ça, parce que c'est les mêmes, en fait, c'est les mêmes questions qui reviennent dans le dossier de l'inspecteur général.
Mais on parle d'aujourd'hui, Mme McIntyre, avec respect. Et aujourd'hui, on sait très bien la conclusion du BIG. Et c'était notre administration qui a mis le BIG en place, vous savez très bien. Et c'était exactement...
L'administration de Denis Coderre.
Effectivement.
Oui.
Je suis fier de dire que j'étais dans l'administration de Denis Coderre.
C'est parfait.
Très fier. Et c'était grâce à notre administration que le BIG existe. Et le BIG existe exactement pour ces raisons, pour trouver ces allégations. pour trouver les choses qui peut-être arrivent entre contracteurs, sous-contracteurs, dans les contrats, dans les ententes, etc. Et grâce à ça, on était capable de découvrir qu'il y avait quelque chose qui se passait entre le contracteur et les sous-contracteurs.
Tout à fait.
Et on va faire le plus possible parce que c'est inacceptable pour récupérer le quelques milliers de dollars que le rapport dit. Je n'ai pas le montant nécessairement avec moi.
Sous la main, c'est correct.
Mais
Ouais.
c'est quelques milliers de dollars, heureusement, mais même à $1, comme j'ai dit à quelqu'un l'autre jour, même à $1, là, ça ne fait pas de différence.
Ouais.
Soit $1 ou quelques milliers de dollars ou 100 000 $, pour moi, c'est la même chose. Et c'est grâce au Big qu'on
Ouais.
était capable de découvrir. Maintenant, si on a des éléments à ajouter dans le contractuel entre la Ville de Montréal et les contracteurs, ensuite les sous-traitants, mais tant mieux. Au moins, ça nous lève un drapeau. Et c'est là, je pense, la responsabilité de l'administration à Montréal de travailler sur les ententes et de s'assurer qu'on n'a pas la même situation dans les autres contrats, soit à Pierrefonds ou dans les autres arrondissements. Au moins, c'est une bonne signe, si vous voulez, parce qu'on a découvert quelque chose qu'on ne savait pas.
Oui.
Et oui, allez.
Comme vous savez, j'étais moi-même favorable à l'établissement du BIG et la proposition donc de Denis Coderre. J'avais voté en faveur et même j'avais déposé une motion pour élargir ses capacités pour qu'il puisse aussi examiner les changements de zonage, par exemple. Parce que je trouve que, comme vous dites, c'est un travail essentiel d'avoir une tierce partie qui est neutre, qui peut faire une évaluation des dossiers et faire une investigation à savoir s'il y a des pratiques frauduleuses. Maintenant, entre avoir des recommandations et les adopter, il y a quand même une étape et je veux quand même m'assurer que tout le monde, tous les membres du Conseil, incluant Mme Clément Talbot, vont voter en faveur des recommandations du BIG dans ce dossier. Parce que c'est ma préoccupation, c'est que quand ça concerne Pierrefonds...
Mais Mme McIntyre, je vais vous arrêter respectivement.
Oui.
N'inquiétez-vous pas. N'inquiétez-vous pas. On va suivre... Avant tout, les recommandations sont pour les porteurs de dossiers et les porteurs, c'est la Ville de Montréal. Mais peu importe, on est la Ville de Montréal, Mme McIntyre. Vous savez très bien.
D'accord.
Et à chaque fois que même le contractuel, les contrats et tout ça, c'était notre administration qui a mis ça en place. Même à ça, si on a des ajustements à faire, qu'est-ce que vous pensez, Mme McIntyre? Vous pensez qu'on va aller contre les décisions prises à la Ville de Montréal concernant le contractuel? Mais voyons donc. Mais voyons donc.
C'est pas une question de ce que je pense. Je cite ce qui est déjà arrivé dans le passé et ce que je trouve préoccupant.
Mais préoccupante, ça prend une majorité pour approuver les décisions prises à la Ville de Montréal, n'est-ce pas?
Tout à fait.
Puis la décision proposée à l'époque avec vous et les autres autour de la table...
Tout le monde était en faveur,
mais
sauf
passé.
Mme Clément Talbot.
A
Oui.
passé quand même.
Oui.
Right?
Oui.
Bon, ça veut dire qu'une démocratie, c'est la majorité qui gère, puis la majorité, à l'époque, a décidé en faveur de cette décision.
Tout à fait.
Mais dans ce sens, Mme McIntyre, avec respect, si ça se passe une autre fois, puis quelqu'un autour de la table, pour peut-être plusieurs raisons, va voter contre, ça va passer quand même parce que pour les autres, ça fait du sens.
Ce serait difficile à justifier, par exemple,
Justifier.
de voter contre une recommandation
Mais vous
de
avez voté
l'inspecteur
contre
général.
la bibliothèque, Mme McIntyre. Puis,
Oui.
à un moment donné, tout le monde attend la bibliothèque comme c'est pas croyable. Vous pouvez même pas imaginer les commentaires qu'on a concernant la bibliothèque puis l'attente que la population a à Pierrefonds Roxboro.
Ouais.
Mais même à ça, vous avez voté contre la bibliothèque. Et
Oui.
là, la majorité ont décidé oui pour la bibliothèque et on va avoir une bibliothèque dans un mois à peu près ouverte au public. Merci, Mme
Je suis
McIntyre.
contente que vous reveniez là-dessus parce que,
Merci,
en fait,
Mme McIntyre.
j'ai pas justifié la raison, mais en fait, oui, j'avais voté contre parce que je considérais qu'on avait déjà une belle infrastructure en place et je craignais justement ce type de dépassement de coûts et problèmes avec le contracteur et des dépenses publiques excessives.
Merci, Mme McIntyre.
Merci.
Madame
Bonne soirée,
McIntyre,
merci.
Je dois vous répondre parce que vous m'attaquez personnellement. Alors, chère madame, lorsque j'avais fait cette remarque, je l'avais fait puisque la piscine, vous aviez voté contre l'ouverture de la piscine à ce moment-là. Les gens, c'était...
J'avais voté contre les
Je
extras.
réponds, madame, vous n'allez pas m'interrompre.
Je vous
vous ai pas
corrige.
interrompu, madame. Alors, vous allez me faire le plaisir de ne pas m'interrompre. Ce que j'avais fait, madame, en mon âme et conscience, c'était d'aller... Est-ce que vous pouvez me regarder pendant que je vous parle et pas vous adresser à l'assistance? Je vous réponds à vous et je réponds également à l'assistance, madame. Ce que j'avais fait à ce moment-là, madame, c'était de m'adresser au conseiller à l'éthique, qui m'avait dit que lorsqu'on avait un vote à faire, qu'on le faisait, en notre âme et conscience, qu'on n'y avait aucun intérêt pécuniaire, et que, troisièmement, qu'on prenait un vote en intérêt des citoyens. Or, est-ce que c'est un commentaire, madame? Est-ce que c'est un
J'ai pas
commentaire?
le droit de réagir ni de détourner mon regard,
Est-ce
madame.
que c'est
Est-ce que
un
je suis à
commentaire?
l'école?
Alors, vous allez m'écouter jusqu'à la fin, sans faire de commentaires, s'il vous plaît. Et cette réponse, madame, je vous l'ai donnée et redonnée plusieurs fois, et je tiens à la répéter en public. J'avais donc demandé, et je m'étais adressé au conseiller à l'éthique. Et je n'avais aucun intérêt personnel, pécuniaire. J'avais un intérêt pour les citoyens. Et cet intérêt pour les citoyens, c'est ce qui m'a amené à prendre cette décision. Maintenant, c'était une décision qui n'était pas une décision qui relevait d'un pour ou d'un contre. C'était que j'apportais mon support aux gens qui s'étaient dévoués à l'ouverture de la piscine. Et je tenais à supporter les gens, bien, madame, je tenais à apporter mon support et j'ai consulté le conseiller à l'éthique. Je suis une personne pensante. Et lorsque je prends une décision, madame McIntyre, je la prends en fonction des citoyens, en mon âme et conscience. Je vous remercie de m'avoir
Merci, Madame Talbot. Merci, Madame McIntyre. Merci.
Monsieur Roger Trottier.
Bonsoir.
I went through this document many times, and what I find out is that, you know, like I've been in the electrical business for over 25 years with a multinational and doing business with contractors, engineers, and all that. And what I find out is that it's that the engineering work is very weak. For to have a contract have over 50 changes, a library is unbelievable. It's not like building a hospital. It's just, you know, cubicles. So
what's your question, Mr. Trottier?
well, I'm just saying that, you know, I know that in March 2017, you said that it was 20.3 million. And then, of course, afterwards, Denis Coderre came up in August of 2017, and he said 24.4 million. Like, how come? Is it these changes that
No.
was the difference of 4 million, or,
No,
or
no.
what?
And as you know, back then, I'm not sure if you had seen, I don't have the documents in front of me, but they were all clearly justified, that were approved at every level, not only at the borough, but in Montreal, because Montreal were the ones that were managing that file. So any overruns of or proposals for any changes were all approved in Montreal. Now, you can be for or against it. You can have an opinion that thinks that 50 changes for a building of this caliber and magnitude is too much, and that's fair for you to say, and I respect that. However, every decision that was made for this library, I don't know what else you want me to say, but every decision that was made for every change went through the proper channels and was approved accordingly. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been approved. So every change, that whatever it was, whether it was the most minuscule to the most major change within that library, was all approved and went through the proper channels. So I don't know what more you want me to say.
No, I'm just saying that there's a lot of weak engineering work.
Well, that's your opinion, sir. That's your opinion. What's your other question, Mr. Trottier?
Well, I just want to say, too, is that you think that the expenses are finished, but they might not be because I deal with companies that specialize in the CSA regulations, and there's a new regulations that are out that is called CSA 463, and they are finding all kinds of mistakes. I'd love to have water, but anyway, but you should really, look it up, because there's also another regulation for the employees that work in electrical jobs. It's called the CSA 462, and it's extremely important because the other day I was at the Bachou Chalet and for a meeting, and the electrical door room was open, so right away I said, is there anybody there, because I wasn't going to go in, because I can see from the door that there's a lot of danger of a person going into that place.
And did you report it to the attendant that was there, Mr. Trottier?
No.
Well, thank you.
No, but I'm reporting it tonight because...
Well, I appreciate it. And as far as your CSA standards, if they've changed, Madame Gervais is there, and we'll be sure to send that information to our Montreal counterparts, and they can keep that in mind as we move forward before the opening of the library. And as far as the electrical room that's there, that's why we have an attendant there, Mr. Trottier. Like we do in every other building, if you see something that's unsafe...
Well, it should be locked.
But if you see something, Mr. Trottier, that is unsafe, shouldn't you be reporting it?
Yeah.
So now that you mentioned it to me here tonight, without fail, we'll make sure we reach out to our chalet attendants in Roxboro and make sure that that door is always locked, because I agree with you.
It should always be
I
under
agree
key.
with you. I agree with you. Thank you. Est-ce qu'on peut prolonger la période des questions après la lecture de l'ordre du jour? Merci.